Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam and I hope you're doing really well. And on this channel, I like to talk about all things film, Blu-ray and physical media collecting. So this is episode 8.
Number 8.
Of my Blu-ray Curation Challenge video series. And this video is going to be focused on films that bring me personal joy, sort of comedy type films. One of these films would be generally regarded as sort of like a masterpiece within cinematic history. The other two are very subjective and sort of have a personal special place in my heart. But yeah, I'm adding films into my curation that I personally love. So here we go. So the first pick is from 1931, starring, directed, written, scored by the incredible Charlie Chaplin, and it's City Lights. This film is one of the most joyous pieces of cinema I've ever seen in my life. It is a masterpiece in silent comedy, and it's also very poignant drama. Like, there's a lot of dramatic and emotional beats to this film as well, and it just encompasses everything that I love about Charlie Chaplin. This is my favourite Chaplin film, although pretty much everything the Criterion have released with Charlie Chaplin in is pretty much a masterpiece. So I dare say that every Chaplin Criterion disc that I have will make it into my curation because I just adore his work. But this is my favourite Charlie Chaplin film, and it's one that I can watch over and over and over again. So the basic plot of this film is Charlie Chaplin is resuming his role as the tramp, and he stumbles across a blind girl who's selling flowers in the streets, and he sort of falls in love with her, and she mistakes him for like a millionaire or like a really rich person. And it's just about the dynamic of that relationship and just the things that he gets up to, and it's just the comic timing, the choreography, and it's just has one of the most beautiful endings I've ever seen in a film. And it's incredible. If you've never watched a silent comedy before, Charlie Chaplin, along with like Buster Keaton as well, but I would say this is probably my favourite silent comedy of all time, and it well and truly deserves to be in my curation. The next two picks for this curation video might raise some eyebrows from some of the viewers here, but you know, we all have films in our lives that hold a special place that may not always be down to the quality of the film, but like memories that are attached to it, or people that we watched it with, or just all various different things that can be attached to a film. But I do really enjoy these films, and they're ones that are on constant replay. So yeah, the first one is directed by David Wayne from 2001, and it's Wet Hot American Summer. So I first discovered this film on Netflix a number of years ago, before the mixed quality TV show, sort of like the 10 Years Later or the prequel TV show that came out, which is fine, but I watched it once, so I don't think I'll ever watch it again. But this film I've probably seen about 20 times since I first saw it, maybe say 6-7 years ago. I absolutely love it. I can pretty much quote the whole thing from start to finish. I've listened to the audio commentary several times, like when I'm out and about on my headphones. So Paul Rudd, Amy Poehler, Elizabeth Banks, Bradley Cooper are all in this film before they became big stars. So the film is set in the early 80s, I think 1981, on the last day of camp. And these very sort of inappropriately aged for the role they're playing, sort of they're meant to be like counsellors, so they're like meant to be a little bit older than sort of the kids that are going camping. So they're meant to be in their late teens, but they're obviously sort of like late 20s, sometimes early 30s, sort of aged people playing younger characters, which is hilarious, which is something that the TV series plays on as a joke as well. And yeah, it's just the dynamics of what's going on with the characters and sort of like the relationships, and the comedy is just to my taste perfectly. It's very zany and wacky, but also quite clever in places. And the story of the making of this film makes the film even more endearing to me, because it was a really low budget film and they had a certain time frame to shoot it in, and pretty much the entirety of the shoot it was raining the whole time. There's even shots in the film that are shot indoors where you can see like a window in the background and there's rain coming down when it's meant to be a sunny day. So yeah, I think there's a really good documentary on Netflix about the making of the film as well. But I adore this film. It's so endlessly watchable for me, and I love it, and it's going into my curation. And the next film may raise some eyebrows as well. It's directed by Greg Mottola, who directed Superbad, which is one of my favourite comedy films of all time. But it's his film Adventureland, starring Jesse Eisenberg, Kristen Stewart, Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig, and a bunch of other recognisable faces. And yeah, I don't know what to say about this one, why I love it so much, but a big part of it is the soundtrack. I absolutely adore the original like musical score by Yola Tengo, who are an incredible band. If you've never heard them before, check out their music. And yeah, some of the really cool sort of 80s tracks on this just really bring the vibe and the mood of the film to life for me. And yeah, it's about being lost and not knowing what to do with your life, and follows Jesse Eisenberg's character working at a sort of really low rent sort of amusement park, basically called Adventureland, and it has like rides that break down all the time, and nobody who works there like enjoys their job, and it's just a really fun film that I've watched many times. Kristen Stewart gets a lot of flack for her role in the Twilight Saga films, and while I would agree that her performance is less than stellar in those films, she really has broken away from sort of the attachment of her performances in those films, in my opinion. And I think she's really good in this, and she's gone on to make some really good films with Olivier Assayas, who's like an incredible French director. But yeah, I love this film. It's not something that many people would probably guess that I would want to put in my curation, but it has its charms for me. I love the music. I think Jesse Eisenberg is a really underrated actor. He does sort of play some similar roles in a lot of the films he's been in, but I just enjoy his performances regardless. So yeah, this is a keeper for me. So the Purge title for this video is not something that's linked to comedy or something that I find joyous. Otherwise, if I did, I wouldn't be purging it. But comedy as a rule in cinema isn't something that I'm drawn to. I mean, I like classic screwball comedies from like the 30s and 40s. And there are some comedy films that I do enjoy, but typically it's not a genre that I gravitate to. TV is where I watch a lot of my comedy. So some of my favourite comedy series are things like The US Office, Peep Show, from a UK show, Arrested Development, Parks and Rec, things like that. I really enjoy. Bob's Burgers is a big favourite of mine. So yeah, most of my comedy interests lie in television. So that was a bit of a tangent. I don't know why I said all that, but basically what I'm saying is horror comedy can be very hit and miss. And so this is a film from Arrow Video that I'm purging because it just didn't hit any sort of notes with me in regards to its horror elements or its comedy elements, because I know it's meant to be like a fun tongue-in-cheek horror type comedy-ish film. I'm talking about Steve Miner's House. So this was produced by Sean S. Cunningham, who, if not aware, he was the director and sort of the creator of the original Friday the 13th film. I'm a huge fan of the Friday the 13th series as a whole. There are some really bad films in that series, but they're a rare thing in a horror franchise where, at least at the beginning of the franchise, the films get better as they go along, in my opinion. But yeah, Sean S. Cunningham produced this, and so this is like a haunted house mansion type film about a writer who is sort of like grieving the loss of his son, and then some supernatural things start happening in this home that he's sort of living in. And yeah, I know there's a lot of love for this film in the sort of horror community, and I can appreciate where people find a lot of enjoyment from this. I've not seen any of the others in the film series. I mean, watching just this film gave me no interest in following through with the series. I think there's 4 films in the House series. But yeah, this one isn't one that I will ever revisit, so that's why I'm going to purge it. So let me know what you think of House if you've seen it, and maybe try and convince me not to get rid of it if there's a particular reason why you love it so much, and things like that. So yeah, so that's a wrap for episode 8 of the Blu-ray Curation Challenge. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider giving it a like, subscribing, and leave a comment down below, and let's have a conversation about physical media. So until next time everyone, take care.